Let's look at competition performance. Who had the best competition performance? Well, this actually goes to Jane Don't. What? She's not in the finale?
The world is your runway.
Hello everyone, it's Conspira Lucy, aka Luke here, and welcome back to another episode of Conspiracy's RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about who I think production wants to win RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18. Now you guys, I have done another video back in 2021, I think, on this same topic, and I go through Season 1 all the way to Season 14, but just to give you a recap on my metrics of what I think production's looking for, we're going to start back with Season 15. Now, when it comes to Season 15, it's obvious that for competition performance, we all know it's Sasha Colby. I mean, she really demolished that season and never really faltered. She had your classic frontrunner storyline, which brings us to storyline. She also had the best storyline that I think production was looking for. You can look at Anitra, who had started in the top, landed in the bottom, in the end came back on top. Or Luxx, who was pretty consistent. Same thing with Mistress, pretty consistent, but none of them really compared to Sasha Colby, especially with the storyline and the track record that we saw. Now, when it comes to runways, this is hard because, you know, Luxx had great runways, Anitra had good runways, Mistress had great runways, but Sasha Colby has that extra touch. No, but she really, I would say, had some of the most memorable runways. You know, you have her tie-dye runway. For some reason, I think of her weed runway from her winning ball challenge, which she won the ball, so there's the winning ball look that she made. Just so many. She had that pageant gown, episode 1. She fits the criteria for the runway category. And then in terms of finale performance, obviously when we get to Season 18, this is going to be more speculation, but we saw in the finale Goddess, and she was the best there as well. She is kind of slaying in every category. Now, when it comes to comparing to previous winners, this is where this might be shocking to some people. I've actually chosen Mistress Isabelle Brooks. Somebody like Anitra would have been our first East Asian winner, our first winner of East Asian descent to win, and that would be something that's really different and unique compared to previous winners. And you have Sasha Colby, who very much was the first trans winner ever of RuPaul's Drag Race. But Kylie Sonique Love was the first trans winner on All Stars. So I think when it comes to Mistress, if she had won, she would have been our first big girl winner. And so you can kind of look at this as tokenization, but I really think this is what production is looking for. And so I had to give it to Mistress for that category. Now, when it comes to brand/platform, it's going to go to Sasha Colby. She's a tried and true pageant pearl, and I just think production was like, if she's gonna reign, she's gonna reign flawlessly. We saw she got all these advertisements, was in all these commercials. Apple Roan was her drag daughter. You know, she did so much with her reign, and so I think production had a little bit of foresight with that. And then when it comes to fan support, it was actually Anitra who had the most fan support, believe it or not. And it makes sense, you know, people loved her talent show, and really, for Season 15, it was very obvious who the winner was. I mean, anybody who saw that edit knew that she was gonna win. Now, when we go to Season 16, we all know when it comes to competition performance, Sapphira Cristál actually did the best. And I think that's kind of one of the issues with her run, is it came right after Sasha Colby. And moving on to storyline, it's gonna actually have to go to Nymphia, because I think Sapphira had such a similar frontrunner, mother-esque edit that Sasha Colby had last season. And it was clear that they both had done the best in the competition, but I think Nymphia's edit was better for a winner, because Nymphia's edit was all about how she held back her talents. And she was kind of an underdog and she was kind of unpredictable. And she was almost this secret strategy queen. We saw this in like, she's like stressing out in the sew-in challenge, or she's stressing out the girl group challenge because she doesn't know how to write a verse. And then in the end, we always see that she comes out on top. Even we had never seen Nymphia lip sync up until, I mean, we'll get to it, the finale. But in terms of runways, again, it goes to Nymphia. She had some of the best runways we've ever seen. She had references to her culture, but she also just had all of her banana runways, and they were all just so polished, and she really was such a fashion queen. And now when we get to the finale performance, we had never seen Nymphia lip sync. And so this was another moment where she was kind of hiding her strategy, and then she comes out in that moment and we gag. She has the boba reveal and she's like doing flips or whatever, doing like a handstand. It was amazing. And I think even speculating, we saw what she could do in the girl group, and then we really saw what she could do in the finale. Now, when it comes to who is the most different compared to previous winners, it actually goes to Nymphia again. Just like I said with Amitra on season 15, she would have been the first winner of East Asian descent. Now, Nymphia would be the first winner of East Asian descent. And when you're comparing to Plain Jade and Sapphira, I feel like they're two archetypes that we kind of seen before, versus Nymphia was an archetype of winner that we hadn't really seen before. When it comes to brand/platform, this is where it gets tricky, because I could see, you know, Sapphira is a tried and true. They know that if they chose her to win, she would execute her reign flawlessly. But I do think Nymphia just had, I mean, Sapphira has a great brand, but Nymphia's brand is so clear. She's the yellow queen. She's the banana queen. She is a fashion queen, and she mixes all of those things together. And when you see Nymphia, when you see banana, when you see the color yellow, you associate it with Nymphia Wind. That's how strong her brand is. So it's a no-brainer. And then, of course, when it comes to fan sport, it's Nymphia again. These two seasons, honestly, were really easy for me to predict the winner, because there's such sweeps in the category. And moving on to season 17, this is where things start to get interesting. Now, when it comes to competition performance, we all know Anya Nerve did the best. You know, we're starting to see a pattern in this MTV era of the queen with the best track record winning. And when it comes to storyline, this one's tough, because this is the first season, and I think it carries over to season 18, where the storylines are so weird and so inconsistent. Like, we had Lexi Love, who comes in, she's really fun and bubbly, and then she like gets in her head and does like this downward spiral, and then maybe in the end gets better, I guess. Or there's Susie Toot, who comes in, and she has a very much underdog Jinx Monsoon edit that very quickly turns into an Alexis Michelle edit. Then you have someone like Anya Nerve, who starts out sort of a hero, sort of a villain. She's just one of those winners that had like some excess negativity in her edit that made you wonder if she was gonna win. And then you have someone like Jewel Sparkles and Sam Starr. Sam Starr was just your classic perfectionist pageant girl storyline, but Jewel Sparkles was kind of not in the edit featured as heavily, and then but it was always positive. It was very middle of the road edit. And so when you're looking at the edit, Susie Ju's not even in the finale. I would maybe give it to her, but she's not there. So I would give it to Anya, but that's like on a technicality of like, she just has the best track record. So that kind of goes into her storyline, but it doesn't really add up, because the storylines just, I gotta be honest, were not that strong during the season. In terms of runways, who had the strongest runway package, I'm gonna have to go, again, it's not Anya. Maybe Jewel Sparkles, maybe Sam Starr. We'll solidify and say Jewel Sparkles, because, you know, I remember her parasol runway. She won for the, what's her fucking name? I want to say Betty Crocker, and I know it's not Betty Crocker. Betty Johnson, Samantha Jones. That bitch. The one who Didi Fuego has the shoes of? Yes. We're gonna give it to her. I mean, they all had moments, but it's hard for me to say, like, oh, this bitch turned out the runway, you know? Also, I hope you guys like my Twister dress. I didn't really mention it, but, you know, it's a little cute, a little flirty, a little fun. I don't really know. Now, when it comes to finale performance, I'm gonna have to give this to Jules Sparkles. I think Lexi Love had a great finale performance, and honestly, I think Sam slayed it, but I think Jules overall met the challenge with her brand, and I just think she was the most fun to watch. And then when you compare her performance to Anya Nur's performance in the finale lip sync, I do give Jules a little bit of the edge there. When it comes to comparing to previous winners, again, this is like, girl, I have to give it to Jules Sparkles again, just because I think it had been since season 7 with Violet Chachki and season 6 with Bianca Del Rio since we had a Latina winner. And so again, we're going with this tokenization, but, you know, is what it is, y'all. When it comes to brand/platform, I'm gonna have to give it to Anya Nerve. It's close between all of them, really. I mean, no shade to Anya. We saw with her actual reign, it maybe isn't what they thought, but I think, you know, Anya Nerve had this strong brand of, like, she did kind of get on the girls' nerves, but she had heart there, and I think she was a theater queen. She had great performances. She had everything going for her to have this fantastic reign of maybe doing theater. It didn't pan out, but I think at that time, they probably were like, she's gonna have the best reign. And maybe didn't pan out that way. Again, this is a season where all of the non-finalists are kind of more popular than the finalists. Corey King, Susie Tu, Lydia Buchel Collins, like, they all are kind of more poppin' than the finalists, no shade. And then when it comes to fan support, this was RuPaul's bot race. This was RuPaul's paid Instagram likes race, but it was Anya Nerve, and so Anya has the majority of the categories here, and this was honestly so close between Anya and Jules, which is funny because you would look at Sam and Lexi as maybe having more of a shot than Jules Sparkles, but it doesn't really pan out that way. And so now we've caught up to present day and we're at season 18. And so when we look at our 3 finalists, let's really look at the categories. Let's look at competition performance. Who had the best competition performance? Well, this actually goes to Jane Don't. What? She's not in the finale? It actually goes to Myki Meeks. And listen, while Jane Don't had an amazing track record, Myki Meeks also had a legendary track record. 8 weeks in a row in the top, 4 wins. It's pretty iconic. And when we go to best storyline, again, I gotta give it to Myki Meeks. Season 18, it is so strange to me. It makes it a little bit exciting because I really do not know who's going to win. I gotta be so honest, but she was pretty much invisible in the edit for the first 4 or 5 episodes up until Rita Queen. All of the queens vote her in the bottom, which RuPaul later says that he doesn't think she deserved. And after that, it lights a fire under her ass and she slays the rest of the competition. And this was kind of a legendary run. And I think Myki Meeks really just has the best storyline. I think Darlene has sort of a similar storyline of kind of no one really seeing it for her at the beginning. Everybody thinking she's going to kind of be a first out, and then by the end of the competition, she starts slaying these challenges, and she ends up with 2 challenge wins. But I think Myki's is more clear, and it's stronger, and she becomes more prominent in the edit. Now, when it comes to runways, this one has to actually go to NiniCoco. I mean, it really isn't a competition. I think Darlene and Myki's weak points in the competition has kind of been their runways. I mean, Mikey's had some good ones, and Darlene has actually had some very memorable runways to where I would almost give it to her, but I think Nini makes all of her looks and they are just perfection. Now, when it comes to finale performance, ooh, y'all, this is a wild card. But Myki Meeks, I'm gonna have to give it to her on who I think is going to do the best in the finale. She's a pageant queen, and she's very smart, and she's very strategic, and I just feel like she would come into the finale and have some very funny jokes planned out, have some good banter with RuPaul, and I feel like she maybe didn't bring it on the runway all season, but I feel like her finale package is going to be the most impressive. But it's like I could see Darlene also pulling it out and pulling something kooky and crazy and memorable out and funny. But also Nini has great performance abilities, and she has slayed all of the lip syncs this season. So it's tough, but I gotta give it to Myki. I just have a feeling that she's going to bring something in the finale. But we shall see, y'all. Now, when it comes to comparing to previous winners, this actually is going to go to Darlene Mitchell. If we look at our winners, our last true comedy queen was actually Bob the Drag Queen. You know, after that we had Sasha and Aquaria and Evie and Jada and Simone and Willow, blah, 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 blah. None of them are really just funny, and that's their brand. Versus, I feel like Darlene's whole brand is, you know, kind of being kooky and funny, and that's something we haven't seen compared to previous winners. And when we come to brand/platform, again, I'm gonna say Darlene Mitchell has the strongest brand. When you see her runways, when you see Darlene, when you see those big clomper shoes, you know it's Darlene Mitchell. When you see some trailer trash, you know it's Darlene Mitchell. She by far has the strongest brand out of the three finalists. And so when we come to our last category of fan support, again, by a close margin, it goes to Darlene Mitchell. And as we see, it's kind of a two-horse race between Darlene and Myki, but I do think Myki is just going to edge her out because of how clear her storyline is and just how polished she is. I think she's somebody who they tend to go for more than Darlene. And after Jane Doe's elimination, I think they are probably going to want to reward somebody who has Sport Challenge wins. But this is one of the closest finales in a long time where I could truly see them choosing Darlene over Myki Meeks. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to win RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18? Drop a comment below and like the video if you enjoyed, and please consider subscribing. I'm going to be posting a lot more consistently. We're going to be covering Drag Race Down Under versus the World. We're going to be doing the Sinspores Drag Race. Yes, we also do Let's Plays, and there might be some baking reels here and there. Listen, I'm multifaceted, and you know, we might play Twister. We're not going to do that, but I hope you all enjoyed. Please, I already asked you to like. Bye, y'all.